Tu último partido con Argentina en eliminatorias en Buenos Aires.
Sí, va a ser especial, va a ser un partido muy especial para mí porque es el último de eliminatoria.
In a video I made for the channel about whether Messi could win the World Cup, a lot of people commented saying it was impossible, that he had already played his last match for Argentina. The thing is, a rumor started spreading after the qualifiers. And no, I'm not talking about the rumor about Manchester United finally signing a goalkeeper with hands. The rumor was that Messi's most recent qualifier would actually be his last game wearing the Argentina shirt. But is Messi really that close to retiring from football for good? Or do we still have more years ahead to watch him shine on the biggest international stages? And if he is about to hang up his boots, what would football even look like without him? So, how did all this noise about Messi's retirement even start? Well, in the final stretch of 2026 World Cup qualifiers, Argentina played their last home match against Venezuela. Just before that game, Messi had given an interview at his club where he said he was going to live that match as if it were the last qualifier of his career. Then, during the national anthem, he looked deeply emotional, and in the post-match interviews, he admitted that making it to the World Cup was not guaranteed. I'm trying to feel good and, above all, being honest with myself. When I feel good, I enjoy it. But when I don't, honestly, I don't have a good time. So I prefer not to be there if I don't feel good. So we'll see. I haven't made a decision about the World Cup. All of this led many people to speculate that Messi was retiring from international football with Argentina. Now, of course, we are not counting the friendly matches he'll surely play in the coming months, but if this really was his farewell, Messi would finish with 194 caps for Argentina, putting him ahead of all the legends like Sergio Ramos with Spain, Luka Modric with Croatia, or even that Japanese player who's still going at 60. But why would he step away now, with the North American World Cup just around the corner? The truth is simple. Messi is getting closer to 40, and for an elite athlete, that's tough. On top of that, there isn't much left for him to achieve. With the national team, he's won it all. Olympic gold in 2008, and yes, that counts. Brazil only managed their first Olympic goal in 2016. 2 Copa Americas, the Finalissima against Italy, and of course, the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. If Messi were applying for a job and listed all that in his CV, he'd get hired instantly. Well, actually, they'd probably say he's overqualified and too old and go with someone like Joao Felix instead. That's how things go today. The point is, he's already completed the set with Argentina, so the motivation to keep going is not the same, especially if his body doesn't respond the way he wants. After the World Cup win, Messi himself spoke about his physical condition. And if we compare him to the prime Barcelona version of Messi, it's clear that a big part of his game relies on his explosiveness. Those bursts of speed where he'd leave defenders in the dust. Even if he does make it to the next World Cup, where he'd be 39, nobody knows if he'd carry on afterwards. That's why that match against Venezuela might very well have been his last. Still, I have my doubts about whether this is real. If you ask me, I don't think Messi is retiring, not even in the years right after the World Cup. Remember, this isn't the first time in his career that Messi has hinted at stepping away from the national team. One of the most famous cases was back in 2016, right after losing the Copa America final to Chile, when he missed a penalty and then announced he was done with Argentina. For me, the national team is over, I've done all I can, it hurts not to be a champion. However, just 2 months after that announcement, Messi was already back in Argentina's squad for the World Cup qualifiers. And before the Qatar World Cup, in another interview, he didn't exactly say he was retiring, but he did mention that it would be his last World Cup. Now, in his most recent interviews, he's made it clear that he could keep playing, but it all depends on how he feels physically. That's why I don't think the last game we saw was truly his last one. I don't even think we're close to that yet. And yes, people will argue his speed isn't what it was, his consistency isn't like 5 years ago. But here's the thing, when people say Messi isn't at the same level anymore, that doesn't mean he's suddenly performing like an average 20-something footballer. Far from it. I'm not making this up. The numbers speak for themselves. And talking about numbers, if you are enjoying the video, why not subscribe to the channel for more? That will help me a lot. But anyway, with Argentina, he finished as the top scorer in the qualifiers with 8 goals. ahead of younger players, even ahead of Darwin Núñez. Okay, fine, that last one isn't too hard, but you get the point. On SofaScore, he was the highest rated player of the qualifiers with a score of 7.98. And at a club level, with Inter Miami, he's already become their all-time top scorer with 61 goals in 74 matches. In the 2024 season and so far in 2025, he's been the highest rated player in the entire league. And sure, it's not the most competitive league in the world, but his numbers are still ridiculous. All of this makes me think that even if there's been a dip in his game, Messi is still miles ahead of most players, and he's got enough left in the tank to stay with the national team for a few more years after the World Cup. The other reason why this might not be the end of Messi is his style of play. As athletes get older, their bodies inevitably wear down, and with Messi you can see it. He can't be pressing all game or sprinting across half the pitch anymore, but the thing is, Messi's game has never been only about that. One of the keys to his numbers is that he knows exactly what to do when the ball is at his feet, without needing to run endlessly. With simple but intelligent passes into space or quick, precise 1-2s with teammates, he can break down defenses with ease. And let's not forget, he's still one of the very few players in the world where if there's a free kick near the box, you know it's a real danger. None of this requires an exceptional physical condition, and so far, it's worked both for Argentina and for his club. The downside, of course, is that his numbers of matches or even minutes per match would likely need to be managed in a tournament like the World Cup, especially against teams that dominate possession. That's why I'm curious to see Messi in the Finalissima against Spain before the World Cup. It could be a real test of how much he still has to give. But okay, let's say all these arguments, stats and strategies for extending his career don't matter. And in the end, he really does decide to retire. The truth is, the impact will be felt most with Argentina. Even though in previous videos I've said that Scaloni has built a solid team without him, the stats I mentioned show how crucial Messi still is. In fact, in the last match, critics point this out when Argentina lost to Ecuador without Messi, which caused them in the FIFA ranking. In that same game, Mastantuono became the youngest player ever to wear Argentina's number 10 shirt. Almost like a sign that he could be Messi's heir once he steps away, but the result wasn't great. The whole team underperformed, and Mastantuono, well, couldn't change the game. As for what Messi would do after retiring, he hasn't said anything too concrete in interviews. What he has mentioned is that he'd like to stay connected to football, maybe by teaching kids or even taking on a role as a sporting director. In my opinion, I don't think his retirement will be the catastrophe some people make it out to be, but I do think Argentina will have to readjust, and not just Argentina, the whole football world will. The Messi and Cristiano era, if it doesn't officially end after this World Cup, will end in the years that follow, and with that, their legendary rivalry will come to a close. Of course, new stars are already on the rise. Players like Lamine Yamal, Mbappe, and Haaland will keep improving, trying to make sure the void left by Messi isn't felt as deeply. Who knows, maybe a new rivalry will emerge, sparking fresh debates about who's the real GOAT. Or maybe, even after he retires, Messi will continue to dominate that conversation for a long time to come. But in the near future, we still have a World Cup ahead. And if you are wondering about Messi's chances, I've already made a breakdown video, so feel free to check it out.